Have you ever reached the end of a day and realized that you spent hours in front of a screen but can't point to a single thing you actually thought about? It's not tiredness, it's not laziness, and it's not the heavy work you imagine. You think your mind is slow because you didn't sleep well, because you have too much to do, because you're simply not the focus type. That's not it. What is happening is a very specific short circuit inside your brain, and it has a name, a mechanism, and a logic that makes perfect sense once you truly understand what's at stake. And soon you'll understand why the same short circuit also explains that feeling of starting 1,000 things and finishing none. If you're not following the channel yet, it's worth subscribing now, because what we discuss here is exactly this kind of thing. What is happening inside the body when you feel that something is wrong, but the tests come back normal and no one can explain it. Think about how your morning is. You wake up. There's still that heaviness in your head, that thin veil between you and the world. You have your coffee, you open your phone before getting out of bed. You reply to a message, you look at the feed for 2 minutes that turn into 15. And when you finally sit down to do something that matters, your mind is already somewhere else. You try to concentrate. You manage for about 3 minutes. Then a thought comes. Then another. And you're back on your phone without really knowing how you got there. This is not a lack of discipline. It's a short circuit in the system. And the first thing responsible for this short circuit is probably something you've never associated with focus: adenosine. Think of it as sand inside an hourglass that sits inside your brain. While you're awake, every nerve cell that fires releases a residue. This residue is adenosine. It accumulates hour after hour, occupying specific receptors in the brain. And the more it fits into these receptors, the heavier everything feels. Thought becomes sluggish. The connection between one idea and another becomes static. Your eyes are open, but processing is at half speed. Sleep exists largely to wash away this sand. It's literally that. During deep sleep, the brain's glymphatic system activates and removes accumulated adenosine. Researchers at the University of Rochester have identified that this cleaning process occurs much more intensely during sleep than in any other state. And here's the thing. When you shorten your sleep, even by just 1 hour for 3 or 4 consecutive nights, adenosine is not completely removed. You wake up with a deficit. You start the day already with sand inside the hourglass. And the caffeine you use to compensate does not remove adenosine. It only temporarily blocks the receptors. When the effect wears off, the sand is still there, sometimes more than before. This is the first level of the short circuit. But there is a second factor that most people don't associate. And it explains why even on days when you slept well, focus disappears after just a few minutes. Dopamine. Imagine 2 hunters. Same forest, same prey. The first hunter has a trap that works every single time. Reliable, predictable. He sets it, walks away, comes back later, done. The second hunter never knows. Sometimes the trap works, sometimes it doesn't. He checks it obsessively, morning, midday, night, because it might have worked by now. Which hunter is more consumed by the hunt? Second one, always. And the reason is dopamine. This is the chemical that drives pursuit, not the moment of catching, the moment of almost catching. Dopamine doesn't reward you for finishing. It pressures you into continuing. It is, at its core, a machine for generating effort. Scientists noticed this when they studied rats pressing levers for food. A lever that always delivered food? The rats pressed it calmly, predictably. A lever that delivered food sometimes randomly? The rats pressed it frantically, far more than they needed to, far more than made sense. The brain in pursuit is not a rational brain. It is a brain on dopamine. And here's the consequence that most people overlook. When your days are filled with activities that trigger constant anticipation, small, rapid, unpredictable loops, your brain slowly loses its tolerance for anything slow, anything uncertain in a different way, anything that asks you to wait longer than 2 minutes before the first signal that you're on the right track. Deep work asks exactly that. And a brain trained on constant pursuit has very little patience left for it. It demands that the brain sustain attention without immediate feedback, sometimes for 20, 30 minutes, before any feeling of progress or accomplishment. When the dopaminergic system has been trained to expect feedback in seconds, 30 minutes without stimulation seems unbearable. Not because you are impatient, because the activation threshold of your reward system has shifted. It is physiological. Researchers at the University of Chicago identified that individuals with high use of infinite scrolling platforms have significantly greater difficulty maintaining sustained attention on tasks with low immediate reward, regardless of factors such as anxiety or sleep quality. And here's a detail that is worth remembering. The direction of the shift also works the other way around. When you deliberately spend periods without quick stimuli, even if short, 20 or 30 minutes, the threshold begins to recalibrate. The brain doesn't need weeks to feel this. It sits for days, but that is only half the story, because there's a third character operating beneath the first two, and it is the quietest of the three. Cortisol. Cortisol is not a villain. It is a tool, a sharp one, designed for moments that demand everything from you. Heart rate up, senses heightened, muscles ready. In the right situation, it is exactly what keeps you alive and capable, but tools have a purpose. And cortisol was built for emergencies, not for inbox management. When the body releases it in response to a tense email, an awkward silence in a meeting, or a notification that arrives at the wrong time, it is using a survival mechanism to respond to something that does not threaten survival. Do that repeatedly across an entire day, and the body stops knowing the difference between danger and discomfort. It stays armed. And a body that stays armed has very little energy left for the one thing that requires the most from the brain. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of logic, planning, and deep thought. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that allows abstract reasoning, planning, sustained focus. It is literally the hardware of a complex thought, and it is extremely sensitive to elevated cortisol. When cortisol is high, blood flow is redistributed. The brain prioritizes regions linked to threat response and partially deactivates regions linked to deep reasoning. It's not a metaphor. It's what happens anatomically. You try to think about something difficult while your body thinks it's in danger. The brain literally won't allow it. It has other plans. And the strange thing is that you weren't in any danger at all. You just had 10 tabs open, 3 deadlines piling up, and that email notification blinking in the corner of the screen while the body interpreted this scenario as a real threat that needed an immediate response. When you understand that accumulated adenosine, fragmented dopamine, and chronic cortisol are operating at the same time, not sequentially but simultaneously, the feeling of a slow mind starts to make sense in a completely different way. It's not a lack of willpower. It's an environment that was built, almost perfectly, to put these three systems in conflict with focus. And what's curious, and this is where most explanations stop, but we won't, because what you just learned is the foundation, but it can be completely canceled out by one silent mistake that almost nobody catches. To make sure that's not happening to you, I handpicked the video showing up on your screen right now, and also in the card above. In it, I reveal the hidden error that 90% of people make when trying to live a healthier life. Building good habits means nothing if this one specific thing is quietly blocking your results from the inside. Click now to make sure you're not sabotaging your own progress without even knowing it. I'll see you there in just a few seconds. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end. If this content was valuable to you and helped you in any way, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming tips and information. And don't keep this to yourself. Share it with those you care about so that this chain of well-being grows even more. A big hug, and I wish you infinite health.